I am delighted today to talk with Dr. Clytrice Watson, who is the Interim Associate Provost at Delaware State University. She returned to Delaware State University after a leave of absence for a year, where she served as Program Director of HBCU-Up at the National Science Foundation. Many of our colleagues at HBCUs across the nation are very familiar with the HBCU-Up program, a major investment by the National Science Foundation, which is responsible for awarding many scientific research grants to HBCUs. A biological science faculty member at the university since 2006. Over the years, Dr. Watson has served as the director of the Forensic Biology Program, Associate Dean for Student Services in the College of Mathematics, Natural Sciences and Technology, and the chairperson of the Department of Biological Sciences. She was also elevated to interim dean of the College of Mathematics, Natural Sciences and Technology from 2015 to 2017. She has a bachelor's degree in biology from Norfolk State University, a master's of science degree from Delaware State University, and a Ph.D. in microbiology and food microbiology from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, all distinguished HBCUs. So let's jump right into the interview. I've been very fascinated with the growth of Delaware State University since my time with the White House Initiative on HBCUs under President Obama. Delaware State really distinguished itself as an innovator, as an institution that was forward thinking. And just recently, that level of investment in research has paid off because Delaware State University was recently designated as a Carnegie classified R2 institution. And for those who aren't familiar with that classification system, this means that Delaware State University is among the highest in terms of its research productivity. There's only one level of classification that's above that. There's only 100 HBCUs, 100 institutions, 100 institutions, 0 HBCUs that has that R1 designation, but only 11 HBCUs have the R2 designation, and Delaware State University is one of the 11. Dr. Watson, tell me a little bit about Delaware State University. What makes it unique in your opinion?
There's so much that I could say about Delaware State University. I am a graduate of Delaware State University, so I have a strong ties to the institution. But I think our uniqueness lies in the fact that we are an 1890 land grant institution. So our establishment was extremely relevant, and it still is today. We're the only HBCU in the state of Delaware, and we're the only state institution in the state of Delaware. I think our unique position in Central Delaware makes us attractive to students in the surrounding states of Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So we serve a large population of urban students. And I think that the fact that we have a strong STEM program, and it has grown tremendously over the past 10 years, that we are also we are very attractive to students who are seeking careers in STEM. I think our faculty are very unique because we are completely committed to the development of our students, not just academically, but really preparing them for life after they graduate from Delaware State University. So I think that we have made tremendous strides in the past 5 years in retention and graduation rates, building our STEM programs, implementing programs to not just prepare our students to get a degree, but to find a job in their careers. So we are just, we're really excited about what the future holds.
The nation is reeling right now. We have social unrest that's going on all across the nation. It's very pronounced in Washington, D.C., where I am, and Philadelphia, which is close to Delaware State University. and the recent police-involved murders of innocent, unarmed Black civilians have really made the country take a strong look at itself in a way that I haven't seen it before. It's impacting our young people. Many of them attend our colleges and universities. And what I want to know is, what is the role of HBCU and HBCU research in helping the nation to heal from this, and not just heal from this in a way that brings you back to the way that you was, but how can we elevate the nation? How can we get the nation to advance higher morals? What is the role of HBCUs in your opinion?
I think that our institutions being HBCUs, should be at the forefront of this fight. And it is an uphill battle, it is a fight. But to take control of the narrative and tell our stories, many have tried to tell our story, but we should be in control of the narrative and tell our story. And we should be the ones educating the nation
Mm-hmm.
on who we are and what we desire and what how we feel. You know, there are numerous studies on Black and white interactions, interactions of Blacks with the police, but who's telling those stories?
Mm-hmm.
So more of that type of research should be generated on our campuses. The impact of racism. Why aren't we doing more of that on our campuses? Why aren't we educating our students more um, on opportunities in research in these areas and opportunities for them to grow and make an impact on our society?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's important that our students are well prepared, because once they leave the boundaries of our campus, let's face it, a lot of students come to our campuses because it's an HBCU. They see people that look like them. That was one of the reasons that I went to an HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
It was a safe haven for me. But once you leave the borders of that campus, you know, you're just another person, and you have to have the skills to survive in a very unwelcoming world or society. So we need to make sure that we are preparing our students for that life after college. So I think there are so many things that as institutions we can do to
Mm-hmm.
lead this effort in transforming our country and combating systemic racism. There are I think there are areas that have not been tapped into,
Mm-hmm.
and we are well positioned to do just that. Our campuses are usually very diverse in our student populations as well as our faculty populations. If we can demonstrate um, how we work together collaboratively across the racial barriers, I think that's a great model for the rest of the nation.
So, Dr. Watson, in addition to the racial unrest and tension that is affecting our nation because of the uh, police killings of unarmed Black civilians, we also have a pandemic that we're dealing with. COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting Black communities and is really making us think about some longstanding health disparities that's affecting our communities. And as we know, HBCUs have been at the forefront of science that has helped us to understand why certain communities are more vulnerable to this. Can you talk a little bit about your observations of this crisis and how HBCUs might be able to contribute to it?
That is a very important topic, Ivory, because, like you said, there's a greater impact in our community. And it's easy to say that it's because of the high rate of underlying conditions in minorities, but I think there are some other things we need to consider, and that is the health disparities. How are minorities treated in the healthcare system? And as HBCUs, I think we could be an advocate for that. The first thing that I would say that we could do, and this is something that we are working on my campus at Delaware State, is to be involved with the testing and become a testing site. One of our scientists, Dr. Derek Scott, has been in conversation with our state testing lab to bring testing, to make our university a testing site for COVID. And if we're not able to do that, obviously there are a lot of risk involved. To be at least a testing site where people in our community can come and get tested. You know, we may not be able to do the actual scientific testing on campus, but to be able to have a place where minorities can come and feel comfortable and have a place where they trust the individuals to do the test. I think that is important. And to also educate our community on COVID-19. It's one thing to hear about it on the news, but sometimes people just really want to know the nuts and bolts of what this is, what are the risks, and how can they really protect themselves. I just recently read an article, I think it was an Ohio senator, who said that colored people don't wash their hands.
Right.
I'm like, and these are the things that people are saying about us, right?
Yeah.
And I said before, we need to control our narrative. And this is the way that we can take control of the narrative. This is what we're doing on our campus for our communities. And I think that HBCUs are in a great position to take the lead on that, to educate our communities. We shouldn't just rely on the news to tell us about what COVID-19 is. Let's go out in the community and educate our people on what this is and how to protect ourselves so they can really understand the importance of social distancing. You know, just stay home or do whatever you need to do to protect yourself and your family.
Talk a little bit about your experiences working at the National Science Foundation, because very few HBCU researchers get the opportunity to see what's on the other side. You know, we submit proposals, we get rejected a lot, but we don't really know the mechanisms by which these decisions are made. So talk about how you ended up going there and some of the major things you learned through that experience.
So it was really a godsend that the opportunity came up. I had spoken with the program officer with the HBCU-Up program, and I found out that there was a rotator's position coming up. So I applied with no expectations. Needless to say, I was thrilled that I was selected. My experience was one of not just professional growth, but personal growth. So my experience, one of learning to see the other side of federal funding and really see what goes on once the proposal is submitted by a faculty member. And I made it a point to learn not just about the HBCU-Up program, but to learn about other research directorates at the foundation, to get to know some of the program officers, to find out what their expectations are, what they're looking for in a proposal, because minority faculty or faculty from HBCUs, they do not have a high funding rate with the foundation. So how can we turn that around? How can we increase the number of minorities or minority serving institutions receiving funding from the National Science Foundation? So the opportunities that I had to do in-reach within the foundation, working with other program officers, really educating them on HBCUs, because for whatever reason, our institutions are looked at as, oh, they don't do research or they can't do research. But oftentimes when people find out that we can and we do, it changes their thinking about the institution.
You mentioned that HBCUs have a low funding level. They get rejected a lot, and perhaps they don't apply a lot. So do you think HBCUs need to do better, or does the National Science Foundation need to do better, or is it a little bit of both?
A lot of HBCUs, their go-to funding source at NSF is HBCU-Up, because it's for us, right? And we're very comfortable in applying to funding that's designated for us. So getting faculty to really apply to those research directorates has been a little bit challenging, but I think it's a lot better now. But the challenge is when they apply, they're rejected, and they're rejected so badly, it kills their spirit
Mm-hmm.
and they don't try again. So the key is to encourage them to keep trying. And
Yeah.
even within HBCU-Up, while I was there, if a faculty member, if a PI was rejected for their grant, I would set up a meeting to talk to them and say, okay, let's talk about what you can do differently and reapply. And I continuously encourage them to reapply, take the reviewer comments, implement them, just rethink it through and reapply. Don't give up just because you got rejected the first time. A lot of people, PWIs, HBCUs, PIs get rejected all the time, but you cannot stop there. You have to try again. It's all about building on your experiences. There are some things internally that program officers and reviewers
Mm-hmm.
could do differently. Program officers can ensure that they have diversity on their review panels, not just from PWIs, but there are some very good reviewers at HBCUs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to try to avoid implicit biases that
Mm-hmm.
creep up sometimes. Um, and unfortunately, there is an attitude of they're an HBCU. They can't really do this work. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
but this PI is from Harvard. And because they're from Harvard, they have to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So this has to be a good proposal. And it may not be a very good proposal actually at all.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before, about the whole concept of rejection and how we deal with that. And HBCUs are rejected a lot for a lot of different things.
Mhm.
If we want to be honest about it, not just grant proposals, but publications to top tier peer-reviewed journals. We're rejected by the media, just through omission of our voice on different issues. The bias of the media to want to talk to University of Pennsylvania as opposed to a Dell State, or a Georgetown University as opposed to a Howard University. Um, uh, and so we deal with this rejection a lot, and we know that it's because of implicit bias and explicit bias and systemic racism that this happens, and that's actually why we titled this HBCU Mixtape, just to give our viewers the origin of the mixtape concept.
Mhm.
It comes from T.I. and 50 Cent, who around the same time period were being rejected by major labels.
Yeah.
T.I. was actually signed to a major label, but his first album, CD, didn't sell very well, so he was dropped from that label. And 50 Cent was seen as too much of a liability. And so both of them started to produce mixtapes and sell them themselves. And so they pushed it on the market
Yeah.
instead of waiting for a gatekeeper to put it out. And so once they pushed out their mixtapes, they changed the way the market was functioning. They were selling more mixtapes than a lot of the major uh, uh, record labels were selling of those that went through the standard process. And then the major record labels started knocking on their doors. And I believe that HBCUs can do the same thing. If they don't come to us, or if they reject our work, we have the tools out there to push it on the market. So that's the reason why we call this the HBCU mixtape. Yeah.
And I love that concept, and I'm so grateful that you put this into play. And you're absolutely right. We have to tell our story. And when we are rejected, if one door is closed, find another one. And if
Hmm.
you can't find another one, build your own door and
Yeah.
walk. That's how I feel. And we as institutions, we just have to do better at that
Yeah.
and not allow someone else to desecrate our name
Hmm.
in the public. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you're rejected because, you know, you're too good for, certain entity.
Absolutely. And our campuses, we have done, we have just made such an impact on our communities and our environments and the nation as a whole for so many years.
Yeah.
And I find it very offensive when someone tries to downplay our relevance.
Hmm.
And so that makes me want to work harder.
Yeah.
And, the Black excellence that we have on our campuses, I just think we should take it to the next level, and we have to let everyone know who we are and what we do. And I strive to do that and every day that I go to work.
And I suspect that with with all of the tension that's going on, all the racial tension that's happening right now, there's going to be a lot of students who are looking at HBCUs, or who are giving the HBCUs a closer look. Um, what do you think about that in terms of the role that HBCUs can play in helping young people like my daughter, who's deeply impacted by the protests and the things that's happening? Um, uh, what would you say to those students in terms of um, their consideration or contemplation of HBCUs?
I have a lot to say about that. Because I'm an HBCU junkie and advocate, I think this is an opportunity for HBCUs to really, I'm not going to say rebrand, but remarket themselves as a place where, as a reminder, one, to students why we were established. And it's a place that welcomes you no matter what your skin color is, with that, whatever, regardless of your religion, sexual orientation, you have a place on our campuses. I've never really, well, I have two children, and I've always encouraged HBCUs. You can go anywhere you want for grad school, but you need to have that HBCU experience. And they basically grew up on the HBCU campus. So it was never a debate about where you're going. It's disheartening when my colleagues send their children to big PWIs, and I'm like, but you work here.
Mm.
What's wrong with your child coming here? But I think that this is a prime time for HBCUs to recruit like crazy, and get some very highly talented, highly motivated students to come to our campuses and just blossom to be phenomenal. It's a chance for us to redefine our relevance, since folks want to question our relevance. I think this is a time to really show what we do.
Is there any research that's happening at HBCUs that excites you?
Dr. Kimberly Milligan is working with, she's building her research around the metabolites of industrial hemp and how the application of these metabolites could be used to improve human health. And she's also focusing on using hemp as a biofuel. Dr. Sharice Winstead, who's also in the chemistry department, is a polymer chemist. And she's looking at using nanomaterials in the area of energy, biomedicine, and environmental applications. Dr. Derek Scott, who is a phenomenal researcher, a phenomenal faculty member, and his wife, who is also a faculty member in the biology department, are both, well, Derek is working with bioinformatics.
Mm.
And that's a growing area, as you may know. And to have a bioinformatics, he started a bioinformatics program on our campus. That's just outstanding, particularly for HBCU. And he just graduated, his first graduate student, and he's now at the University of South Carolina getting his Ph.D. in bioinformatics. So very proud of what's going on. His wife, Latia, is doing more educational research. She just recently received a training grant from Nimble, where she's going to be training students in biomedicine, I believe. Yeah. So we have a lot of different research going on. I highlighted the minority faculty because I think, again, sometimes we're sort of pushed under in the back and not really highlighted. But they're doing a phenomenal job with training students. And that's the important thing. Training students, training the next generation of scientists. While I was at NSF, I had the opportunity to meet a large number of faculty members, PIs, who were doing groundbreaking research. And that was my argument while I was there. Our faculty they're doing great research and they're just as good as some of the PIs at the PWIs. Pay attention to what they're doing. I met a young lady at Johnson C. Smith, Tracy Fox Brown, in the chemistry department, and she is probably one of the hardest working young women that I've met. And some of the challenges that she faces as a female in STEM, um, I know it all very well. And so just encouraging her to hang in there and keep pressing forward, put on some blinders, don't get sidetracked by what's going on in your peripheral vision, and just keep pressing forward. So
That's excellent. Okay, well, as you know, this is an NSF-funded project, National Science Foundation. This is an extension of the RAP conference. RAP is an acronym for Research Action Practice. This is HBCU Mixtape. So we ask everyone to let us know your favorite rapper, are your favorite rap line.
I'm an 80s baby, right? So I used to love Eric B. and Rakim.
Eric B. and Rakim, lots of quotables there.
Yes. And I often, okay, this is gonna sound so corny, but what's the song? It's been a long time since I left you.
That was from Around the Step too.
So
Thumbs up. Sorry,
when I came back to Delaware State, I used to walk around and go see people, you know, say, I'm back. It's been a long time since I left you, you know.
Well, thank you so much for your compassion for the students, for your realness, your authenticity, your excellence, and your willingness to elevate HBCU research to the highest level. We know that you are unique, but we also know that throughout the 100 HBCUs that exist, there are multiples of hundreds of people who share the same commitment that you have. And we want people to know who they are so that we have the confidence that the future of HBCUs are in good hands. Or is in good hands. So thank you so much. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to.